When it did nothing better than what I got in my mind, which I don't understand. Johnny wanted to put some smile in my mind because he didn't want to go the size that I didn't want to go to because he didn't want to do what I wanted to do for the money.
Not too long ago, Sauce Walker went all the way in on Johnny Dang, straight calling him out for allegedly selling fake diamond jewelry, and it got messy fast. Now the situation just got even louder because word on the street is NBA YoungBoy stepped in too, and he didn't stay quiet. He reportedly sent a clear warning to Johnny over that same fake jewelry talk. People are looking sideways, wondering how this turned into a full-blown situation. So let's break down how YoungBoy's name suddenly got pulled into the middle of all this drama. Before all the controversy, Johnny Dang was known as the King of Bling, but his story didn't start flashy at all. Back in 1996, he touched down in the United States with nothing. No English, no connections, no money, just pure hunger to make something happen. At 23, he landed in Houston to link back up with his father, who had escaped Vietnam years earlier by boat and was running a small jewelry repair hustle in the city. Things moved fast from there. On just his second day in the country, Dang was already working behind a flea market booth, fixing gold pieces by hand and grinding non-stop. By 1998, he leveled up and opened his first shop, TV Jewelry, inside Sharpstown Mall, turning that small hustle into something serious. Then by 2002, he teamed up with Paul Wall, rebranded the business as Johnny Dang and Company, and started building a name that reached deep into the hip-hop scene. What really set Dang apart early on was how he spotted a gap nobody else was paying attention to. Hip-hop artists wanted bold, custom pieces, but the industry wasn't delivering like that. So he switched the game up by creating custom diamond grills that didn't require filing down teeth, avoiding that painful process people were used to back then. And that move helped push his name even bigger in the culture. Paul Wall started rocking those grills heavy, and once rappers saw Paul Wall shining like that, they all started pulling up to Houston one by one. It turned into a wave real quick. Nelly even shouted him out in grills back in 2006, and after that, it was non-stop traffic. Kanye West came through, Jay-Z came through, Beyonce too, then Travis Scott, Lil Wayne, Chief Keef, 21 Savage, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, every big name you can think of had pieces stamped.
How many rappers you put the chain on and they walked out this whole, not with you? I see you put it on another rapper.
By Johnny Dang and Company. Even Simone Biles pulled up in 2023 and got custom wedding grills, which just shows how wide his reach really got. The business didn't stay small either. It leveled up crazy. In 2016, the shop moved out of the mall and into a massive standalone flagship at 6224 Richmond Avenue in Houston. And this place was on a whole different level. We're talking 16,000 square feet, over 50 jewelers working inside, and even a VIP grills wall showing off molds and photos from celebrity clients like trophies. Johnny built an empire estimated around $200 million, and it wasn't by luck at all. It came from knowing exactly what rappers wanted, delivering every time, and treating every client the same whether they were spending $500 or $500,000. But then, March 2026 hit, and everything started getting shaky real fast. The internet lit up with serious questions about what was really inside those pieces. People started wondering if the diamonds, chains, and grills that built that empire were actually what they were claimed to be. The whole industry started watching closely because the main accusation was very specific and damaging. Claims started spreading that Johnny Dang and Company had been selling lab-grown CVD diamonds while charging clients like they were natural mined stones. Now CVD, which stands for chemical vapor deposition, is a lab process where diamonds are created using carbon-rich gas under controlled heat and pressure. And here's the twist. They come out looking almost identical to natural diamonds. Same carbon structure, same hardness, same shine when the light hits, which makes it hard for the average person to even tell the difference, and that's exactly why these claims started raising eyebrows everywhere. Here's where it gets tricky. A basic diamond tester can't even tell the difference between a natural diamond and a lab-grown one. To the naked eye, they look the same, and even most trained jewelers can't spot it without special equipment. The real difference comes down to price, and that's where things start raising serious questions. A 2-carat natural mined diamond could cost around $20,000, while a CVD version of that same size might only run about $3,000 to $5,000. Now imagine this. A finished piece is sold for $100,000 and the buyer believes every stone in it is natural. But in reality, those stones are lab-grown. If that's the case, the jeweler could be pocketing a massive difference, and the buyer wouldn't even know it. The only way to confirm something like that is by sending the diamonds to a certified gemological lab for advanced testing using equipment that you won't find in a regular jewelry shop or showroom. And let's be real, most people aren't going to question someone they've trusted for years, let alone go that far to double check. That's the exact accusation that started shaking everything up, and it didn't come from a courtroom or some official report. It exploded straight off social media. Around March 17th, 2026, Instagram Lives and YouTube videos started going viral, with titles like "Sauce Walker exposes Johnny Dang for selling fake diamonds," spreading like wildfire across YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. The numbers went crazy fast. Within hours, videos were pulling in hundreds of thousands of views, and within days, the whole hip-hop scene was locked in watching this unfold. But what really made it hit different was who was speaking out. It wasn't a reporter or an investigator, it was Houston rapper Sauce Walker. This is someone who, by his own claims, had spent over 20 years and millions of dollars as a customer of Johnny Dang, so people were paying close attention. And when Sauce Walker spoke in those viral clips, he wasn't being vague or careful with his words at all. He came direct, saying exactly what he felt. And that bold energy is what kept pushing the situation even further into the spotlight. The way those claims came out, they weren't quiet or careful at all, they were loud, direct, and personal. That's exactly why the story spread so fast, because it tapped into something people were already thinking. There's always been that whisper in the background, that maybe all that flashy ice wasn't what it seemed, that the shine might not be as solid as it looked, and that some rappers dropping hundreds of thousands might not fully know what they were really buying. Once that idea caught momentum, it started pulling more names into the conversation, whether they belonged there or not. And to really understand where NBA YoungBoy fits into all this, or if he even fits at all, you have to go back to where everything first blew up. You have to start with Sauce Walker, with over 20 years of trust, and the exact moment that trust completely broke down. Because this wasn't just business between Sauce Walker and Johnny Dang, it ran deeper than that. This was the kind of relationship built over 2 decades, where deals turn into loyalty and loyalty starts feeling like family. The kind where a jeweler knows a client's exact grill fit without checking, and the client brings everyone he knows to that same shop without hesitation. Not for a deal, but because he truly believes in it. Sauce Walker, a Houston rapper and TSF founder known for his bold, over-the-top style, had been locked in with Johnny Dang since the early 2000s. He wasn't just another customer either, he was living proof of the brand. Every time he stepped out wearing a new piece,
Johnny wouldn't have did nothing better than what I got in my mind, which I don't understand. Johnny wanted to put some smile in my mind.
Every music video, every moment he showed off his jewelry. He was basically advertising without even trying, putting that shine on full display for the world to see. Every Instagram post, every concert in front of thousands, Sauce Walker was putting the Johnny Dang name right in front of the exact crowd that mattered most. He wasn't just wearing jewelry, he was marketing the brand at the highest level without even saying a word. And over 20 plus years, he reportedly dropped millions doing just that, building up a relationship that looked solid from the outside. The biggest moment people still talk about, that $500,000 Cuban link chain. This wasn't some regular transaction either. It was so serious that the deal reportedly went down inside a Chase Bank branch, with Johnny Dang personally pulling up to deliver the finished piece. Both of them posted it proudly, showing it off like a milestone, like proof of what 2 decades of loyalty and big spending could really get you. $500,000 for one chain, the same level as Floyd Mayweather's piece, and Sauce Walker wore that like a badge of honor. It wasn't just jewelry, it was status, it was pride. It was proof that his connection with his jeweler was operating at the absolute top tier money could reach. But even in that same moment, if you look closely, there's a different energy underneath it all. Something feels slightly off, like there was already tension building behind the scenes, even while everything looked perfect on the surface. Sauce Walker knew he wasn't just another rapper walking in and out of that shop. He saw other artists come through, grab pieces, and keep it moving. But in his mind, his situation was different. His loyalty ran deeper, and he believed that kind of long-term connection deserved a different level of respect. He had put in over 20 years, investing not just money but his name, his image, and his influence into that relationship. Another major moment that showed just how real that bond was came with a $300,000 diamond ring. This wasn't just a flashy purchase either. It came right after Walker survived a shooting in Memphis. He walked out of the hospital and went straight to Johnny Dang's shop, dropping $300,000 on a piece to celebrate still being alive. That's not something someone does if they have doubts. That's the move of someone who fully trusts who they're dealing with. In one of the most intense moments of his life, he chose Johnny Dang to mark that survival, to turn pain into something permanent and valuable. But somewhere after that, sometime between that ring purchase in August 2024, something shifted. Something in that long-standing trust started to crack, even if it wasn't visible right away. Then came the moment that really set everything off. The grill. Sauce Walker had a vision, and not just any vision. He wanted the biggest permanent diamond grill ever made. We're talking 20 to 18, over 50 carats, rose gold, packed with 3-carat and 1-carat stones all throughout. A piece so unique it couldn't be mistaken for anything else. And when it came time to bring that idea to life, he went to Johnny Dang first, like he always had. But whatever happened in that conversation didn't go smoothly. Both sides tell it differently, but the tension is clear, and the real details started coming out through what Walker said on camera. And that's where things really started getting serious. According to Walker, Johnny Dang wasn't trying to go as big as he wanted. Dang reportedly pushed for something smaller, something more balanced, something that actually fit the traditional way grills are supposed to sit. But Walker wasn't trying to hear any of that. Walker had a whole different vision in mind, and he wasn't backing down from it at all. While Dang was focused on practicality, Walker was thinking maximum size, maximum shine, no limits. At one point, Dang even reportedly offered him free pieces, which in most situations would sound like a solid move between a jeweler and a loyal client. Built over years, but Walker didn't see it like that. Not even close. To him, that offer felt like a cap, like someone was trying to limit how far he could go, and he took that personally. He shut it down completely. Walker made it clear he didn't want anything free. He wanted to pay, and not just a little either. He was ready to drop $1 million for the biggest grill anybody had ever seen. Something nobody could ignore. What he wanted was simple. A jeweler who wouldn't hesitate, who wouldn't question it, who would just make it happen exactly how he imagined it. Make it fit. That right there is the line that sums up the entire fallout. After more than 20 years locked in, after spending $500,000 on a chain, after putting $300,000 into a ring tied to a life or death moment, the second Johnny Dang said that vision couldn't be done the way Walker wanted, it was over. Walker didn't argue, didn't negotiate, he just moved on and went somewhere else.
I'm the one spent the $500,000. I did that. I'm the only that got the same necklace that Floyd Mayweather got.
And that decision is what really cracked everything wide open. Walker didn't just go to anyone next, he went to Johnny Dang's former insider. He linked up with Plug Geo, a jeweler who had spent years inside Dang's shop as one of the top designers before walking away in April 2021 with his own issues. But more importantly, Geo didn't just leave with experience. He left with deep knowledge of how things really worked behind the scenes, and that would end up meaning everything later. The $1 million permanent diamond grill that Geo created wasn't done quietly either. It was all captured on camera inside a dentist's office. And what made it hit even harder was what happened right before the new piece went in. Walker had his old Johnny Dang grills physically removed from his mouth on video. That moment wasn't subtle at all. It looked like 20 years of loyalty being pulled out piece by piece, tooth by tooth, right in front of everybody watching. And when those clips started circulating online in August 2024, then blew up all over again in March 2026, the whole situation went from a disagreement to something way bigger. At first, it sounded like it was just about the size of a grill, but that narrative didn't last long. The second Walker started speaking out publicly about what he believed was wrong with the jewelry he had bought over the years, everything shifted fast. The conversation went from too small to something way more serious. Not real. Now people weren't talking about design anymore. They were questioning authenticity, and one word kept popping up everywhere: CVD. You saw it in viral videos, all through social media threads and flooding YouTube comment sections with thousands of reactions. By March 2026, those expose-style videos weren't being subtle at all. They were straight up claiming that lab-grown diamonds were being sold at natural diamond prices. The narrative was clear. Clients trusted the brand, spent massive money, and never had a reason to question what they were getting. Then came the quote that really set everything off, spreading across the internet like wildfire. "I spent millions with this man. Come to find out, half my ice fake lab shit disguised as VVS natural. He knew this ain't no mistake, this robbery." That statement alone shook everything, and it didn't just stop there, because right behind it came a second voice entering the story. Someone claiming they didn't just see this from the outside as a customer, but from the inside, watching how everything allegedly played out within the walls of the shop itself. Then comes the insider, and this is where things start getting even more serious. In the diamond world, there's a rule that everything is built on. It's called full disclosure. That means a seller is supposed to tell the buyer exactly what they're getting. No confusion, no guessing, no hidden details. Natural mined diamonds and lab-grown diamonds are supposed to come with different certifications, and the biggest name in that space is GIA, the gold standard when it comes to diamond grading. Those certificates clearly state whether a diamond was formed naturally over billions of years deep in the earth or created in a lab in just a few weeks. So if a jeweler sells a lab-grown diamond without making that clear, especially while charging natural diamond prices, that's not just being unclear, that's where the accusations get serious. The claim being pushed is simple and direct. It's fraud. Now enter Plug Geo, whose real name is Jose Mata, also known as J.O. Ma. Plug J.O., or Mr. One of One. This isn't just some random voice online. This is someone who was actually inside Johnny Dang and company for years. He saw how things worked up close, how stones were sourced, how they moved through production, and how they were eventually presented to clients paying top dollar for those final pieces. Gio didn't come in as another worker either. He came in as a craftsman, and not just average. He was highly skilled. His eye for custom designs, his speed, and his ability to connect with clients made him one of the most valuable people in that entire operation. And when it comes to his impact, Gio even put numbers on it himself. He claimed to have generated $9 million in revenue in a single year in the custom hip-hop jewelry world, where one piece can go from $10,000 to hundreds of thousands. That kind of number shows just how deep he was in the business and how much he was really involved behind the scenes. Pulling in $9 million in just 12 months isn't just about skill, it's about trust on a whole different level. That kind of number means clients weren't just coming to the shop, they were coming back specifically for Gio.
How many rappers you put the chain on and they walked out this whole, not with you? I see you put it on a lot of rappers.
They were sending their people directly to him, building real relationships based on his name inside those walls. But then everything changed in April 2021. Gio walked out. And he didn't leave quietly either. He went on camera and started talking. What he laid out in that 2021 video wasn't just random claims, it was the foundation of everything that would blow up across the hip-hop world years later. At the time, it didn't fully hit, but 5 years later, those same words came back louder than ever. Gio alleged that Johnny Dang and company had been putting CVD lab-grown diamonds into pieces that were sold as natural mined stones. And according to him, this wasn't a one-time mistake or some mix-up in sourcing. He described it as something systematic, something that was knowingly happening over time and across multiple clients. Then he broke down the numbers, and that's when people really started paying attention. A natural 2-carat diamond might cost a shop around $20,000 on the wholesale market, but a CVD diamond of similar size and look, that could be picked up for as low as $3,000 to $5,000, sometimes even less. Now take that and scale it up. If a finished piece is sold for $100,000 under the belief that every stone is natural, but some are actually lab-grown, that creates a massive gap. We're talking about a potential difference of $60,000 to $65,000 on a single piece. And if something like that were happening across dozens of pieces every month over multiple years at that level of business, it's easy to see why these claims started shaking the entire industry and getting people to look a lot closer. If what Gio was saying is true, then the numbers get crazy fast. The alleged profit margins at Johnny Dang and company wouldn't just be big, they'd be massive. But Gio didn't stop at diamond sourcing. He also started speaking on how people inside the operation were being treated. This is someone who claimed he brought in $9 million in a single year, yet his commission was sitting at just 2%. When he pushed for 4%, he says he got shut down. And when he asked for a raise in his base pay, the offer he got back was just $2 extra an hour. In his own words, he said, "I made you $9 million in a year. Just give me 4% commission." He would give me 2% commission. And then when I asked him for a raise, he said, "Oh, I'm going to give you a $2 raise." That right there added even more fuel to everything he was already claiming. Then Sauce Walker stepped in publicly, and that's when everything that had been sitting under the surface since 2021 finally caught fire. The tension, the accusations, the clips, it all collided at once and turned into something way bigger than anyone expected. Now here's where it's important to be clear, because this part matters. CVD diamonds are not fake diamonds at all. They are real in every scientific sense. Same carbon structure, same hardness, same shine, same reaction under light. So the real issue being argued here isn't about whether lab-grown diamonds are bad or low quality. That's not the point. The real controversy is about disclosure and pricing. Plain and simple. If someone pays for a natural mined diamond and ends up getting a lab-grown one at the same price, without being told, that's where the problem is. At that point, it's not about how the diamond looks, it's about trust, transparency, and whether the deal was actually what it was claimed to be. That small but critical difference, real versus natural, disclosed versus undisclosed, is exactly where everything gets complicated. Because a basic handheld diamond tester can't tell you that difference at all. It won't show whether a diamond was grown in a lab or formed naturally, and that limitation is what makes this whole situation way more serious. That's also why Gio's insider claims about sourcing hit so hard. If what he's saying lines up, then it points directly at something most customers would never be able to catch on their own. And when Johnny Dang publicly said how difficult it is to tell lab-grown from natural diamonds with the naked eye, which is actually true, a lot of people didn't hear that as a defense. Instead, a big part of the audience took that statement and ran with it, hearing it more like an admission than an explanation, and that only pushed the conversation even further. Once March 2026 hit, the situation didn't just stay in one place. It spread fast in multiple directions. The controversy moved in waves, and each wave started pulling in different names and moments from the past. The first wave went backward, way back to July 2014, a moment that a lot of people had either forgotten or never even heard about until now. Chief Keef, who had been a known Johnny Dang customer for years, was already deep into the brand, wearing custom pieces like someone who saw it as more than jewelry. It was part of his identity, part of his place in the culture. But then in 2014, something happened that people are now revisiting with a whole new perspective. Chief Keef walked into a K Jewelers inside a California mall and decided to test his pieces right there on the spot. He put his Johnny Dang pendant and diamond watch up against a standard handheld diamond tester, the kind you'll find at most jewelry counters. That device works by measuring thermal conductivity, basically checking if something reacts like a real diamond versus common imitations like cubic zirconia or moissanite. And what happened next is exactly why this old moment is being brought back into the spotlight today. Both pieces lit up green on the tester, and in that world, green means one thing: diamond. Not glass, not cubic zirconia, none of the cheap substitutes people worry about. Chief Keef even posted it himself on Instagram saying, "When you see green, who's smart enough to know what that mean?" Back in 2014, that was a clean flex, no questions asked. Just proof that his pieces were hitting. But fast forward to 2026, and that same clip hits completely different when YouTube channels dug it back up and placed it right next to the new CVD allegations. It suddenly felt way more complicated. What used to look like confirmation now started raising new questions that nobody was asking back then. Because here's the key issue: those handheld diamond testers only measured thermal conductivity. The exact device Keef used was never built to tell you where a diamond came from. It can confirm something is a diamond, but it can't say if it formed naturally in the earth or was grown in a lab, and that's the heart of this entire situation. The 2026 controversy isn't about whether the stones are fake, it's about their origin. Keef's test proved his pieces weren't obvious fakes, but it didn't and couldn't prove if those diamonds were natural or lab-grown. That realization is what turned an old flex into something people started questioning years later. Then came the second wave, and this one moved out of Houston and straight into Chicago, bringing a whole new voice into the mix. King Yella. Right before March 26, 2026, King Yella went live, and at first, it wasn't even focused on jewelry. He was talking about old block history, King Von, the deeper layers of Chicago drill culture, and the meaning behind Parkway Gardens as more than just a place. It's a symbol. But during that long, unfiltered rant, he started touching on something bigger: the role of image in the drill scene. Because in that world, iced out jewelry isn't just for looks. It's part of the system. It represents status, survival, respect. It's a visual language that tells people who's who without saying a word. And once that conversation shifted toward jewelry, it started connecting right back to the bigger controversy in a way nobody could ignore. Then came another claim, and it spread fast, like a spark hitting dry ground. King Yella alleged that questionable Johnny Dang pieces had been circulating among O-Block affiliates. Now, he didn't lay out specific items, names, or documented transactions. But at a time when the entire situation was already heating up, that kind of statement didn't need details to take off. Because once a voice from Chicago, especially one tied to drill culture, speaks on something like that, people listen. And with the scandal already moving across the hip-hop world, that single claim was enough to create a whole new wave of videos, debates, and reactions. The idea that these allegations could reach into one of the most talked about circles in drill culture gave the story even more weight. Even without hard proof attached, it added fuel to an already growing fire, pushing the narrative further into the spotlight. Then the third wave hit, and this one pulled in Lil Durk, but in a very different way. This part of the story didn't come from new accusations. It came from old footage. Clips and posts that had been sitting online for years were suddenly pulled back up, stripped of their original context, and used to support a narrative they were never meant to be part of. Back in September 2021, during a time when celebrity jewelry controversies were already trending, especially after Lil Baby's fake Patek Philippe situation, Lil Durk posted 2 Instagram stories that quickly went viral. The first one said, "Stop buying all this jewelry without knowing what you're doing. A lot of the shit fake and some is overpriced. Get one jeweler and stick to him. I'm telling you, Yalla, gonna be pissed when the truth come out." Then months later, in early 2022, he posted again saying, "Don't blame the rapper or athletes. No mo blame the jeweler for selling them that bogus ass shit." At the time, those posts were just general warnings, but in 2026, people started connecting them to the current situation, turning old words into new evidence, and pulling Dirk's name right into the middle of a controversy he never directly addressed. Back when those posts first dropped, outlets like Complex, XXL, and Revolt didn't treat them like shots at anyone specific. They saw them for what they were, general warnings about the jewelry industry as a whole. No jeweler was named, no shop was called out directly, and there wasn't any clear target behind what Dirk was saying. He was talking about the bigger picture, the secondary market, undisclosed lab-grown stones, overpriced pieces, and the culture of just trusting whatever a jeweler says without double-checking. His message was simple: be smart, know what you're buying, and don't move blindly. When he said stick with one jeweler, it wasn't meant as an attack, it was practical advice. Build trust with someone reliable and stay consistent instead of bouncing around and risking getting played. And here's where things get interesting. There's actual footage of Lil Durk inside Johnny Dang's shop, getting a permanent grill fitted and showing love on camera. At that time, he was clearly rocking with Johnny, even presenting him as his go-to jeweler. That part of the story doesn't line up with how some 2026 headlines tried to frame things, but those details didn't stop the clips from going viral. Because online, it's not always about accuracy, it's about what gets attention, and those titles were pulling in hundreds of thousands of views. As everything kept spreading, even smaller voices started getting pulled into the mix. One artist, Money Gang Slugger, spoke out on camera about switching from Johnny Dang to another jeweler he called King Johnny. His reasons weren't about diamonds or authenticity though, it was more about the experience. He talked about long wait times and feeling like the shop focused more on big-name celebrities, leaving newer artists feeling overlooked while they were still trying to build their name. Money Gang Slugger's issue wasn't even about diamonds being real or fake, it was about the experience. He was frustrated about waiting up to 90 days for a piece while watching celebrities come in and out, getting their orders done in just 3 or 4 days. To him, it felt like regular clients were getting pushed to the side while bigger names got priority. But in March 2026, none of that context mattered anymore. Any story about leaving Johnny Dang, even if it had nothing to do with diamond authenticity, got pulled straight into the bigger narrative automatically. Everything started blending together, and separate complaints began to look like one massive pattern. At the core of it, what Slugger said he wanted was simple: a real relationship with his jeweler. Not just a transaction, but actual communication. A connection where he felt valued beyond just money. And according to him, that's what he felt was missing. By the time all these stories spread, from Houston to Chicago and across the entire rap internet, Johnny Dang's reputation was getting hit from every angle at once. And here's the key detail: none of the major names leading the headlines had dropped hard proof. No certified lab reports, no legal filings, no documented receipts that fully backed the claims. Instead, the entire situation was being driven by momentum. Viral clips, old footage being reused, social media debates, and insider voices speaking out with their own perspectives and experiences. So when Johnny Dang finally responded, he was stepping into a situation where the public had already started forming opinions. And his response, it wasn't what people expected at all. There were no diss tracks, no back and forth arguments, no online shouting matches with Sauce Walker, Plug Geo, or the content creators pushing the story. He stayed quiet in that sense. The same man who built a $200 million empire from a small flea market booth in Houston by treating every customer the same, whether they had $500 or $500,000, didn't jump into the chaos the way social media wanted him to. Instead of adding more noise, he moved differently, and that choice only made people watch him even closer as the situation kept unfolding. From the everyday customer spending a few hundred to Grammy-winning artists dropping $500,000, Johnny Dang handled his biggest public crisis the same way he built his name: calm, steady, and not rushing into chaos. But his response didn't actually start in 2026. It goes back to August 2024, when Sauce Walker first made the grill switch public. Right after that moment, Dang dropped a 4-part video series on Instagram, and people expected him to come out aggressive, but that's not what happened. Instead, he showed something completely different. He looked hurt. Not angry, not loud, but genuinely affected, like someone who felt betrayed after a 20-year relationship. The energy wasn't about attacking back, it felt personal, like he believed the whole situation didn't have to go public at all. According to him, this could have been handled privately, with a simple conversation, maybe even over dinner, instead of turning into something the whole internet could watch unfold. And the line that really stuck with people wasn't a threat or some detailed breakdown. It was about respect. You don't need to put my name in there, but if you mention my name, put some respect on my name. If not, keep the fuck my name out your mouth. That moment hit hard because it wasn't technical. It was emotional. He also revealed that before anything blew up publicly, he had already reached out to Sauce Walker. He tried to set up a face-to-face meeting, a real conversation to figure out what went wrong and fix it before it became a viral situation. But according to Dang, that effort went nowhere. No meeting, no resolution, just silence at first, and then everything spilling out online where millions of people would eventually see it and form their own opinions. And then everything came back to the main issue, the CVD question. This was the core accusation, the one that could go beyond just reputation and turn into something legal if proven. But when Johnny Dang addressed it, he didn't come out with a direct, all-clear denial the way many people expected. Instead, he focused on explaining the nature of the stones themselves. He said that the difference between a lab-grown diamond and a natural one is nearly impossible to see with the naked eye, and that the average person wouldn't be able to tell the difference just by looking. And to be clear, that statement is completely true. But the way it landed online, completely different. A lot of people didn't take it as an explanation, they heard it as something else entirely. To them, it sounded like he was answering the wrong question while avoiding the one everyone actually cared about. He said you can't tell the difference visually, but he didn't directly say that every piece he ever sold came with certification proving natural origin. And that gap right there became its own controversy. People started focusing less on what he said and more on what he didn't say, and that silence in between those points kept the conversation alive. By late March 2026, Dang started moving differently online. He shifted into full transparency mode, posting detailed videos from inside his shop. You could see diamond testing happening in real time, watch the stone setting process, the gold casting, even quality control steps, all shown more openly than ever before. It wasn't surface level content anymore. He was giving people a deeper look into how everything worked behind the scenes. At the same time, he pushed harder on something he had already been warning about for months: counterfeits. He started exposing fake Johnny Dang operations overseas, scammers running copycat websites using his name, street jewelers in different cities selling imitation pieces under his brand, and even viral accounts stealing his videos and reposting them like they were the real source. That added another layer to the situation, because now it wasn't just about what was happening inside his shop. It raised questions about how much fake product was already floating around out there with his name attached to it. He even put out an offer that started spreading everywhere online. Any customer who found and reported a fake piece using his brand could send him a screenshot on Instagram and get entered into a random giveaway for a real item from his shop. That move flipped the narrative. Now he was positioning himself not as the problem, but as the one fighting against it. Instead of backing down, he leaned into it, presenting himself as the guy protecting his name from imitators trying to profit off his reputation. The image he pushed was clear: a respected jeweler whose brand was being copied and misused, and who was actively calling it out. And then, just like that, without some big announcement or press conference, everything cooled off the way a lot of hip-hop situations do. Sauce Walker and Johnny Dang reportedly met face-to-face at a community event in Houston, and they squashed it. It all came down to a handshake in Houston, the same city where everything first sparked off. After all the tension, the back and forth, and the internet going crazy, that 20-year relationship that once looked completely broken was publicly cooled down. Maybe not fully the same, but no longer a war. At the same time, another wild rumor started flying online, claiming that authorities had raided Johnny Dang's main store over fraud allegations. That story spread fast, had people talking everywhere, but when it came down to facts, it didn't hold up. His team quickly shut it down, making it clear there were no police reports, no charges, no arrests, and nothing in any public records connecting law enforcement to those claims. It was just another example of how fast things can spiral online: loud, viral, and completely unverified. And just like that, one of the biggest jewelry controversies in hip-hop started to settle, leaving people still debating what was real, what wasn't, and what really happened behind the scenes. If you made it this far, tap that like button, subscribe for more, share this video, and drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think really went on here?